let me ask you a question. Monster Hunter 6 or Monster Hunter World 2?
What the hell?
Okay, let me get into this, because I imagine you might have had that kind of, what? Reaction. But I think it's actually an important question, and a distinctive defining one beyond that. Because when you think about it, everyone has been talking about the next Monster Hunter game with this pre-established notion that saying Monster Hunter World 2 and Monster Hunter 6 is essentially referring to the same game. It's the next game in the series, the first game of Generation 6, to be built onto the back of what World started. That makes sense. But I think there is a subtle, distinct difference in there that is actually really worth exploring, because the game that is Monster Hunter World 2 and the game that is Monster Hunter 6, I think actually ends up being two very different games. So it then becomes, well, which one do we actually want? Because when you look at the history of Monster Hunter, never has there actually been a literal sequel to a Monster Hunter game. Now, again, that's gonna sound weird, but what I mean is, yes, we've had the G-Rank and the Master Rank expansion games, but that's just the game that was before with more added on, right? They're expansions in essence. They're not a literal sequel in the sense that it's the same world and essence and setup, but, you know, forward in time with new stuff happening, like you traditionally imagine a sequel to be. And perhaps to put it in a way that makes it more apparent, if you absolutely adored Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, and you should do because it's one of the GOATs, you would presumably sit there going, oh, I have done everything in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. I would love more Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. Oh, what's that? There's a new Monster Hunter game coming? Oh, that's so exciting. I get more of what I love. Oh, let's have a look. I don't understand what happened to Monster Hunter. And that puts it across, right? Monster Hunter Tri is not more Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, despite being the next game in the line in a literal progression sense. It's not a sequel. It's the new Monster Hunter game, but it's not more of the same. It defines its own path, carves out its own unique mechanics, gimmicks, and features, and presents that core of Monster Hunter, which, you know, is the weapons, the movesets, the monsters, the movesets, on maps with crafting, the kind of pillars there, but the building blocks, while the same, are arranged differently. And while that's still awesome, because it means every single Monster Hunter game stands on its own, has its own merits, and is worth playing in a vacuum, it does mean that if your favorite part of Monster Hunter was tied to a particular game, you're unlikely to see that in the same way again. If you absolutely adored Generations Ultimate for its hunter arts and weapon styles, well then you either play Generations Ultimate or you don't have hunter arts and weapon styles, because in all likelihood, they will never happen again. If you adored the Clutch Claw... Okay, yeah, fair enough. That one was a bad example. Only hammer mains adored the Clutch Claw. In any case, there is one caveat or counterexample to this, and that was Monster Hunter Freedom to Monster Hunter Freedom 2, or another way of putting it, Monster Hunter Portable to Monster Hunter DOS. Those felt like sequels because, well, nothing crazy was happening yet. We weren't getting these generational gimmicks, mechanics, changes that really made everything feel like a very different experience, because that was just more monsters and more stuff, weapons, etc. But that was back in the early days, before generations of Monster Hunter were so defined, before the established rule set of what it meant to progress forward in the line of Monster Hunter games meant. So past that, it's just kind of not happened. If you love switch skills and silkbind attacks, again, that's never going to happen again. It's not something that remains. And that's not how it tends to work in other games. So when I ask the question, Monster Hunter 6 or Monster Hunter World 2, you get more the context in which I mean that now. Would you prefer a Monster Hunter 6, i.e., and it's a complete re-go with entirely new characters, a new set of maps, obviously new monsters, but that happens whenever, so we don't really have to worry about that factor, but a new gimmick core mechanic like underwater, like the switch skills, like the hunter arts that transforms the experience into something new entirely, with everything just, again, its own in a vacuum contained Monster Hunter experience that isn't quite like any other. That is obviously appealing to me, and I imagine it still is to you. That's what we're used to. And normally in any other generational transition, this wouldn't be as big a deal of a question. But when you look at the alternative then, would you rather Monster Hunter World 2? I.e., we stay on this new world, we keep with the characters, the commander, the admiral, the handler. Come on! But it's further forward in time. Maybe they have discovered or invented a new weapon, found more maps, more of the land to explore, more new monsters there because of it. But it's the same skeleton of world, just progressed in that sense. As opposed to, again, here's something, a complete start again. It's got the same Monster Hunteriness, but other than that, it's its own thing. And the reason that I think it is now suddenly a significant question is because of the sheer both quality and popularity of Monster Hunter World and therefore Iceborne. Rise and Sunbreak were spin-off games within the 5th generation, different dev team, etc., so they were never going to be worldy in that sense, though that said, they did change a lot because of it. They gained fully open maps because of the success of World. It wasn't initially going to happen, as an easy example. And that's something that I can see being actually quite the heavy consideration. Capcom have World and Iceborne, their most successful games ever, and they know that they are about to make the next one that actually is the next one in most people's minds. The next PlayStation, Xbox, PC, mainline Monster Hunter game kicking off a new generation. Do you deliver to the, 30 million people that got involved with World and Iceborne an entirely new Monster Hunter series experience? Do we give them the, perhaps shock of going from World, i.e. Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, to Monster Hunter 6, i.e. Try, with now suddenly something as crazy as underwater combat out of nowhere? Or would that make everyone go, huh, well, this isn't what I expected. I wanted more World and Iceborne. That game was like an awesome masterpiece. I don't understand why they've added in this new feature. It was good how it was before. And while as veterans know there is plenty of joy to be had in their willingness to push and experiment in every Monster Hunter game, there is now this weight of expectation that, let's be honest, the vast majority of Monster Hunter players are Monster Hunter World and Iceborne players. They've not touched the rest of the series. Veterans are the minority. That's just the statistics of it. That's just how big comparatively World and Iceborne were. So do you play into that, or do you stick to your guns and do what each generation has tended to do, which is give us something entirely new in every facet while keeping that Monster Hunter core? And I can see an argument for both, and I can see why someone would be happy with either. Do you want that Monster Hunter 6, or do you want Monster Hunter World 2? And yes, there is a world, in which it's a sort of happy medium, where it is Monster Hunter 6, but it does tread very closely to World. Whatever the new hook or gimmick mechanic is, isn't too intrusive. The movesets aren't too different. The monsters feel similar. But then you run into the issue of perhaps it's not different enough for some people, and honestly, I don't envy Capcom's position here. It is a difficult one to be in. It is the definition of suffering from success. It is, do you go crazy in Monster Hunter 6? I'm sure they want to, because damn it, they're good at it. I don't think any Monster Hunter game is objectively bad, no matter how different it is from its peers, Or do you play it a little bit more directly? Hey guys, this is a sequel to Monster Hunter World, and therefore captured the attention of the colossal audience that World and Iceborne brought to Monster Hunter. I would really love to know your sort of thoughts and feelings on this and which way you go. Personally, as long as we keep the weapons, the monsters, the crafting, the core, and indeed open maps, I think that is too good to ever walk back. I'm in camp, just give us something wild. Monster Hunter 6 it, do what you need to do. I have faith and trust after these 20 years. For the 20th anniversary, go bigger and crazier than you ever have. Let's hunt bloody everything. But I wouldn't be disappointed nor upset if they did make it a bit more world-centric, either in theme or mechanically, to maintain that at least consistency across generations to keep people as interested as World and Iceborne made them. For now, though, let me know what your take is. I would love to read it. As always, you guys have some great discussions. Like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.